The Connecticut Leather Company was founded in 1932 by a chap called Morris Greenberg. The company supplied leather and other items to shoe repair shops. By 1961, the company had sold off most of its leather stuff and started to make, well, other stuff, and they became known as Coleco Industries. Why do you need to know this? Well, because in 1976 they released a first generation video games console called the Telstar. But I'm not interested in that right now. What I am interested in, however, is their second generation video games console released in 1982. A console that was as close to the real arcade experience as you were going to get. And considering it was made by a company that started life by making leather things, well, that's not bad going at all. Today, we're looking at the Connecticut Leather Company Vision Custom. Oh god, it's the ColecoVision, okay? And what a belter it is too. I'm really excited to show you guys this because the ColecoVision console for me is a very interesting one. I never knew a single person that owned one. We all had Atari 2600s, Philips G7000s, and some of us even had Intellivisions, but no one I knew had a ColecoVision console. I've been interested in having a look and a play on one of these for a very long time. Back in 1982, the home console market was dominated by the likes of Atari and the Intellivision, but by the early 80s, home computers were entering the market. By now, people were expecting better and more advanced graphics than the humble Atari 2600, so what better CPU to put in a new console than the Z80? Now, when I first turned the ColecoVision on and started to play it, I did notice that some of the game's visuals and sound effects reminded me very much of the MSX system, which I also love. Even the player select screen looks very similar to an MSX screen with that background blue and the white fonts. It's a very similar look indeed. Now, there is a very good reason for this. The ColecoVision does have very similar hardware to the MSX, and not only does it use the same CPU, but it also almost uses the same video chip made by Texas Instruments. The ColecoVision wasn't an immediate success when it was launched, however, all this was going to change when they managed to get hold of the rights to a major arcade game by Nintendo known as Donkey Kong. There was a bit of a fist fight going on at the time between Atari and Mattel over who could get the rights to Donkey Kong, but as Coleco had the better machine technically, they made a bid to Nintendo and promised to make a near perfect arcade version of Nintendo's arcade hit. It is probably one of the best versions of Donkey Kong, and people could not miss up the chance to play it at home, and the ColecoVision at this point started to fly off the shelves, especially as Donkey Kong was actually packaged with the console. Donkey Kong did for ColecoVision what Space Invaders did for Atari many years earlier. By 1983, sales of the ColecoVision were actually beating Atari and Intellivision, and even today, if your console has a killer app, that one game that everyone wants to play that is not available anywhere else, people will go and buy your hardware. It is still all about the games at the end of the day. Now, looking round, you can see that there's an expansion port on the front of the ColecoVision, and it was always touted as an expandable system. Expansion module number 1 actually allowed you to play Atari games via emulation, which is not a bad idea at all, right? But of course, Atari were very angry with this. You could literally plug your Atari games straight into the ColecoVision, and as you'd imagine, they were not too impressed. They sued Coleco, but this was eventually settled out of court, and Coleco actually went on to license some of Atari's games. And this is what led them to release a clone of the Atari 600 called the Coleco Gemini. I've never seen one at all, but I sure would love to have a look at one. Other expansion modules included a steering wheel and pedals, an Adam computer expansion that actually turned your ColecoVision into an Adam computer. There was also a trackball add-on called the Roller Controller, and another set of joysticks called the Super Action Controller. The ColecoVision sold well until its demise in 1985 when Coleco pulled out of the video games market and decided to focus on toys such as the Cabbage Patch Kids, which I never really understood the popularity of, to be honest, because they're downright horrible ugly things. This wonderful second generation machine was a brilliant gaming machine, and it went on to sell over 2 million units. What we've got here is a machine that was not only superior in graphics and sound, but also very expandable, and that's not bad for a company that just sold bits of leather. So here it is on the bench. Let's pull it open and see what we have inside here. Okay, I've just popped the lid off the ColecoVision and I found something quite interesting inside there. I wonder how long that's been rattling around in there for. Bit of corrosion on that. Look at that. I'll clean that up, I think. The RF shield is a bit corroded. But apart from that, it looks pretty clean. There's no rodents or spiders or anything living in there. Disappointingly, it appears to be soldered to the main board, so I'm going to have to fire up the soldering iron and just clean that up before I can take this RF shield off. And there you can see the edge connector where all the expansion modules fitted in. We've got a Zilog Z80A CPU just sat underneath the cartridge slot there. There's a Texas Instruments sound chip. Underneath that heatsink, I believe, is the Texas Instruments graphics video chip. Here we have the system RAM. Here we have the Atari style 9-pin joystick ports with the associated logic circuitry there just next to it. I think that's pretty much it. So you've got the you got the video signal out that goes over to the RF modulator that sits over there. Capacitors don't look swollen. There's not a lot of dust or dirt in there. I've given it a brief clean. You can see that the RF shield on this side is quite shiny, so I gather that was originally what it looked like, and on this side it's quite corroded. So I like the design of it really. It's quite nice. It's got these little joystick ports, these holders, a bit like the Intellivision has, so they slot in there. You can see there's a 9-pin Atari style joystick port. There's the connector. You can see the controllers are a bit Intellivision-like. You've got this keypad, this digital keypad on it as well. The 8-way joystick and 2 fire buttons. I find it a bit uncomfortable. I'm not a fan. I've got to admit, I don't really like these controllers. So looking on the top here, we've got an on-off switch. We've got a reset button there. Let's move this joystick. Cartridge slot there. So sitting right at the front, you've got the expansion port where all the modules used to plug in. I haven't got any modules actually. I have to keep my eyes open for some of those. And not a lot on the back really. We've got the RF out. And we've got the 12 5-volt power supply in. This does come with a separate power brick. And that's pretty much it. So I've given it a clean, I've put it back together again. I suppose there's only one thing left to do. Shall we go and have a look at some games? Now the ColecoVision does come with this rather large heavy power brick that gives 5 and 12 volts. It is pretty big. RF out, damn it. Hopefully the picture quality is not too bad. There is no RGB, there's no composite out, although I'm pretty sure there is a mod for it somewhere I'll look at in the future. So I'm just about to get this set up and tuned into the TV. Now hopefully that doesn't look too bad because I can't use a video capture card or anything. Let's have a look at Donkey Kong. So this is the game that managed to shift all these ColecoVisions back in the day. I am useless at this game, I've got to tell you. I've always found this game incredibly frustrating. I know Josh does as well. This looks far better than anything we saw in the 2600 or the Intellivision. Definitely, technically a lot superior, isn't it? Get up there. Yeah, I'm not a fan of these controllers. They are not the best. Here's a nice looking version of Zaxxon. Yeah, see, this looks far better than anything else out at the time. If you think of all the second generation consoles there were, they did not look like this, did they? Sounds like I'm going to break the controller. Yeah, this is a nice version of Zaxxon. This is called Space Panic. Looks very similar to a game I used to play on the Beeb and Electron called Monsters. It's the old dig the hole, let them fall in, and whack them on their head. Whoops, run. God, these controls are awful. One of the things I did manage to pick up as well at a very reasonable price was one of these multi-cartridges. This is 192 in one ColecoVision cartridge. As you can see, it's got the little dip switches at the top there, so you've got 192 games to choose from by selecting dip switch configuration, which is detailed in this document, and there's quite a few actually. It's a bit like the one Craig brought here last year sometime for the G7000. There's a lot of games there, so what I'm going to do quickly is run through a couple of those that we've got there. Here's burger time. I used to love this in the arcades. Love Carnival. This is a really good looking version of Frogger. I'd be so much better at this if I didn't have this controller. It's just awful. It's so unresponsive. As it's an Atari 9-pin joystick port, I reckon there's probably quite a few joysticks that are compatible with this thing. That's a bit more authentic looking than a 2600, isn't it? Oh dear. Can you believe there's even a Star Wars arcade on the ColecoVision? Let's see. Oh my god, it's borderline uncontrollable. I can't control it. It doesn't look too bad though, does it? Apart from this god-awful controller. And really it needs an analog control for I can't play this on a digital controller. I can't hit a barn door. And last one I'll show you, I think, is Mr. Do, personal favourite of mine. Let's see how this plays. Now, this is one game you do need a very accurate joystick for, which means I'm going to be crap at it. That's my excuse anyway. Damn, missed. So what are your thoughts on the ColecoVision then? I love it. I think it's brilliant. It's a lot more powerful than the Atari and the Intellivision, as you'd expect. It was released in 1982, and it's more akin to the performance you'd expect to see from a home computer of the time, really. Glad we got one in the collection. Hope you enjoyed that quick look at the ColecoVision console, and we'll catch you again very soon in the Retro Shed. Take care now, and bye-bye.